You know that feeling when you scream in a nightmare but no sound comes out? That was my entire childhood. I was invisible. But I never thought my invisibility would literally almost kill me until the day I wore my cap and gown. I was the valedictorian. I had a 4.0 GPA. I had a full ride to a top-tier university. And yet, as I stood on that stage feeling the room spin, the only thing I could think was, are they here yet? They weren't. And then, the lights went out. Not the auditorium lights, my lights. I woke up to the smell of antiseptic and the sound of beeping. You know, that rhythm that tells you you're still alive even if you don't feel like it. I was in the ER. A nurse was hovering over me. She looked nice, but she had that specific look on her face. You know the one. The pity look. The look adults give you when they know something heartbreaking and they're trying to figure out how to say it without crushing you. "Honey," she said softly, "you're awake. You gave us quite a scare. Severe dehydration and stress-induced arrhythmia. Your heart was beating like a hummingbird." I tried to sit up, but the room tilted. "My parents," I croaked. My throat felt like sandpaper. "Did you call my parents?" The nurse's face got tight. She looked at her clipboard, then back at me. She didn't want to answer. "We called them," she said finally. Her voice was too professional, too calm. "We called the primary number and the secondary number." "And?" I asked. I felt that cold pit in my stomach, that familiar dread I'd lived with for 18 years. "They said..." She paused, taking a deep breath. "They said they were in the middle of a family celebration and couldn't be disturbed. They told us to call back during business hours." I stared at her. A family celebration. It was my graduation day. I was the one graduating. What family were they celebrating? And then it hit me. My sister, Bella. Let me back up so you understand the absolute insanity of this dynamic. Because you need to know why I ended up on a stretcher while my parents were partying. My name is Liam. I'm 22 now, but back then, I was 18 and desperate for a crumb of attention. My sister Bella? She was 16, and she was the golden child. Bella was the sun, the moon, and the stars. If Bella sneezed, my mom Karen, let's call her Karen because she fits the stereotype perfectly, would call a specialist. If Bella got a C- on a test, my dad would blame the teacher and hire a private tutor. Me? I was the spare parts, the easy child. I didn't need help, so I didn't get any. I remember when I was 10, I broke my arm falling off a bike. I walked home, holding my arm against my chest, crying. My mom looked up from braiding Bella's hair and said, "Liam, stop being dramatic, it's just a bruise. Go put ice on it." I sat in my room for 6 hours until my grandpa came over for dinner, saw me pale and sweating, and rushed me to the ER. It was a compound fracture. That was the dynamic. Grandpa was my only lifeline. My parents were just roommates who paid the mortgage. So, fast forward to graduation. I had worked myself to the bone. I studied until 3 a.m. every night. I ran track. I volunteered. I did everything right because I thought, if I'm perfect, they have to look at me. Spoiler alert, being perfect doesn't make narcissists love you. It just makes them ignore you harder because you don't give them any drama to feed on. The morning of graduation, the house was chaos. But not for me. Bella had a dance recital. Now, this wasn't a national championship. This wasn't Broadway. This was a local community center recital. She was in the back row of a tap dance number. I stood in the kitchen in my cap and gown. I looked ridiculous eating cereal in a graduation gown, but I wanted them to see it. "So," I said, trying to keep my voice steady, "the ceremony starts at 10. I gave you the VIP tickets. Front row." My dad didn't even look up from his phone. "We know, Liam. We have the schedule." "But Bella's recital is at 11, my mom chimed in, frantically steaming a glittery costume. "It's going to be tight." "Mom," I said, "I'm the valedictorian. I'm giving a speech. It's a huge deal." She finally looked at me, and she sighed, the biggest, most inconvenient sigh in the world. Liam, we know you're smart. We don't need to watch you read a paper to know you're smart. Bella needs our support right now. She has stage fright. I have stage fright, I argued. I'm speaking to 3,000 people. You're fine, Dad grunted. You're always fine. Don't be selfish. We'll try to make it for the end. Try. I drove myself to my own high school graduation. I sat there in the staging area, watching other kids hugging their parents, taking photos, fixing each other's ties. I sat alone, checking my phone. No texts. When they called my name, I walked up to the podium. The principal shook my hand. I looked out into the front row, the VIP section, 2 empty seats, right in the center, glaring at me. I started my speech. I don't remember a word of it. I just remember the heat. The auditorium didn't have AC, and it was a scorcher. I hadn't eaten breakfast because I was too nervous. I hadn't drunk water because I didn't want to need the bathroom during the ceremony. And then the heartbreak hit me. They really chose a tap dance recital over my high school graduation. My vision went blurry. The faces in the crowd melted together. I tried to say, "In conclusion," but the floor rushed up to meet my face. Back in the hospital room, the nurse was still looking at me with those sad eyes. "So," I whispered, "they're at a celebration." "Yes," she said, "but we did reach one person on your list." Just then the door flew open. It hit the wall with a loud bang. In walked a man who looked like he was ready to fight God himself. My grandpa, my dad's dad. He's 70 years old, built like a retired boxer, and has zero patience for nonsense. He wasn't walking, he was storming. He marched right up to the bed, grabbed my hand, and I saw something I'd never seen before. Grandpa was crying. "Liam," he choked out, "my boy. I'm here. Grandpa's here." "Hey, Pops," I managed to smile. He turned to the nurse, wiping his eyes with a handkerchief. His voice changed instantly from gentle to terrifying. "Status, now." "He's stable," the nurse said quickly. "He needs fluids and rest. His cortisol levels, stress hormones, are through the roof. Honestly, sir, he looks like someone who hasn't rested in a year." Grandpa gripped the bed rail. His knuckles were white. "I was at the graduation," he said. "I was in the back because I couldn't get a ticket. Those 2 idiots had the VIP passes." He saw me fall. He saw the ambulance take me. He tried to chase it, but security held him back until he could get to his car. "Where are they?" Grandpa growled. "Where are my son and that woman?" The nurse hesitated. "Sir, as I told the patient, they declined to come. They said they were busy." Grandpa's face turned a shade of purple I didn't think was medically possible. He pulled out his phone. "Busy," he repeated. "Busy." He dialed my dad. He put it on speaker. The phone rang and rang. Finally, my dad picked up. "Hello, Dad?" My dad's voice sounded annoyed. "Look, we're at Pizza Hut for Bella's post-recital lunch. I can't really talk." The room went dead silent. You could hear a pin drop. Pizza Hut. I was in the hospital with heart palpitations, and they were eating stuffed crust pepperoni. Grandpa took a breath that sounded like a vacuum seal breaking. "Listen to me, you useless waste of space," Grandpa roared. The nurse actually jumped. "Your son is in the emergency room. He collapsed on stage, and you're eating pizza?" There was a silence on the other end, then my mom's voice in the background. "Is that your dad? Tell him to lower his voice, people are staring." "Liam is in the ER?" my dad asked. He didn't sound panicked, he sounded confused. "Is it serious? Or is he just doing that drama thing again?" I closed my eyes. A single tear leaked out. That drama thing. Grandpa looked at me. He saw that tear, and something in him snapped. "You have 20 minutes, Grandpa said. His voice was low now, deadly quiet. 20 minutes to get to this hospital. If you are not here, do not bother ever showing your face to me again. And bring the VIP tickets you wasted." "Dad, we haven't even ordered—" Click. Grandpa hung up. He looked at me, stroking my hair. I'm sorry, Liam. I'm so sorry I didn't see this sooner. I knew they favored her, but I didn't know it was this. I squeezed his hand. It's okay, Pops. I'm used to it. No, he said firmly. You are not getting used to this. This ends today. It took them 40 minutes to arrive. When they walked in, they didn't look worried. They looked annoyed. My mom was wearing a bright pink Dance Mom t-shirt. My dad was checking his watch. Bella was trailing behind them, texting, wearing her glittery costume and a tiara. A tiara. Well, Mom said, dropping her purse on the chair. We're here. What's the damage? Dehydration? I told you to drink water, Liam. You never listen. She didn't hug me. She didn't ask how I felt. She started lecturing me. Grandpa was sitting in the corner chair. They hadn't noticed him yet because the curtain was partially blocking him. He collapsed in front of the whole school, the nurse said, stepping in to defend me. It's a serious condition caused by extreme exhaustion. He pushes himself too hard, Dad said, waving his hand dismissively. He's obsessed with grades. We tell him to relax, but he wants to be the best at everything. It's his own fault. Yeah, Bella piped up, looking up from her phone. We had to leave the party early. I didn't even get my breadsticks. I felt the anger rising in my chest, but I was too weak to shout. Then, the chair in the corner scraped against the floor. Grandpa stood up. He stepped out from behind the curtain like a villain in a horror movie, but for them, he was the monster they deserved. Dad? My father looked shocked. I didn't see your car. I took a cab, Grandpa said, because I was shaking too hard to drive after watching my grandson hit the floor. He walked over to them. He stood between me and them, like a human shield. Get out, Grandpa said. Excuse me? Mom laughed nervously. We just got here. You told us to come. I told you to come so you could see what you did, Grandpa said. Now I've seen enough. You blamed him. You complained about breadsticks. You didn't ask if he was alive. Oh, stop being dramatic, Arthur, Mom snapped. He's obviously fine. He's awake. Grandpa turned to the nurse. Nurse, as his grandfather, can I have these people removed if they are upsetting the patient? The nurse smiled. It was a vicious, beautiful smile. Absolutely. Blood pressure is spiking. They need to leave. You can't kick us out, Dad shouted. He's our son. He's a minor. I turned 18 last week, I whispered from the bed. Everyone froze. I'm an adult, I said, a little louder. I don't want you here. Get out. My mom's jaw dropped. After everything we've done for you? We put a roof over your head. We fed you. You did the bare minimum required by law, Grandpa shouted. He pointed a shaking finger at the door. Out, before I call security myself. My dad puffed up his chest like he was going to challenge Grandpa. But Grandpa is a Vietnam vet who still chops his own firewood. My dad is an accountant who gets winded walking upstairs. Dad backed down. Fine, Dad spat. If you want to be ungrateful, go ahead. Come on, Karen. Come on, Bella. Let them have their little pity party. They stormed out, but not before Bella grabbed the Jell-O cup off my tray and said, Since you're not eating it. They left, and the silence was heavy. Grandpa sat back down. He looked 10 years older. Liam, he said softly, I have a big house. It's too quiet since your grandma passed. How would you feel about moving in with me for the summer, before college? I started crying again. Please, yes, please. But here is where the story takes a dark turn. You thought this was just about bad parenting? No, this is about money, a lot of money. While I was recovering at Grandpa's house over the next week, we started getting my paperwork ready for university. I had a full tuition scholarship, but I still needed money for room, board, books, and living expenses. My grandmother, Grandpa's wife, had passed away 5 years ago. She left a specific trust fund for all the grandkids' education. It wasn't millions, but it was about $50,000 each, more than enough to cover my living costs for 4 years so I wouldn't have to work. Grandpa went to his safe to get the trust documents. He came back into the kitchen with a file. He looked pale, paler than when I was in the hospital. Liam, he said. "Log into your student account. Check the financial aid status." I did, and I saw something weird. It said, "Expected family contribution, $0. It said, "External scholarships, $0. It said, "Trust fund disbursement, error, insufficient funds." What? I looked at Grandpa. What does insufficient funds mean? Grandpa slammed the file onto the table. "It means," he hissed, his voice trembling with rage, "that your parents were the trustees until you turned 18. They had access." We called the bank immediately. We put it on speaker. "Yes, Mr. Henderson," the banker said. "I see the account here. The account ending in 4098. That account was closed 3 months ago." "Closed?" Grandpa shouted. "By who?" "By the trustees, Mark and Karen Henderson. They transferred the balance to a personal checking account." My college fund, $50,000, gone. "Did they say what it was for?" Grandpa asked, his voice deadly calm. "Well, looking at the withdrawal notes, it says emergency home repairs and medical needs for beneficiary." We looked at each other. There were no home repairs. Their house was perfect. And medical needs? I hadn't been to a doctor in years until last week. But then I remembered something. 3 months ago. That was right around Bella's Sweet 16. Bella had a Sweet 16 party that looked like something out of MTV. They rented a ballroom. They had a DJ. They bought her a brand new Jeep Wrangler. I felt sick. They didn't just ignore me. They stole my grandmother's money meant for my future, to buy my 16-year-old sister a car she couldn't even drive legally yet. Grandpa didn't say a word. He hung up the phone. He stood up and walked to the closet. He put on his coat. "Where are you going, Pops?" I asked. "I'm going to see a lawyer," he said. "And then, I'm going to the police." "Police? You're going to arrest your own son?" Grandpa turned to me. His eyes were cold steel. "I don't have a son anymore. I have a thief, and nobody steals from my grandson." The next 48 hours were a blur of legal meetings. Grandpa wasn't playing games. He hired the nastiest, most shark-like forensic accountant in the city, a guy named Saul, who wore expensive suits and smiled like he wanted to eat someone. Saul dug into the records. It wasn't just the $50,000. "They've been siphoning money for years," Saul told us, spreading papers over Grandpa's dining table. "Liam, did you ever have a savings account from birthday money?" "Yeah," I said. "I had about $2,000 from mowing lawns and stuff." "Gone," Saul said. "They drained it last Christmas, probably for gifts." Gifts I didn't get, by the way. I got a pair of socks and a calendar. Bella got a MacBook. "This is fraud," Saul said. "Embezzlement, breach of fiduciary duty. Since you turned 18, Liam, you can sue them directly. And Arthur," he looked at Grandpa, "since you were the executor of the original will, you can sue them for mismanagement of the estate." "Do it," Grandpa said. "Burn it down." "Wait," I said. I was scared. "If we do this, it's over. We'll never be a family again." Grandpa put his hand on my shoulder. "Liam, look at me. You don't have a family. You have parasites. You need to cut them off before they suck you dry." He was right. I knew he was right. So I signed the papers. The following Sunday, my parents usually hosted a big family dinner. Aunties, uncles, cousins, everyone came. It was all about appearance. They loved to show off how perfect they were. They didn't know I was living with Grandpa. They thought I was just sulking at a friend's house. Grandpa looked at me Sunday morning. "Put on your suit, Liam." "Why?" "We're going to dinner." "Pops, I can't go there." "We aren't going there to eat," Grandpa smiled grimly. "We're going there to serve them." We pulled up to my parents' house. There were 5 cars in the driveway. The whole extended family was there. My heart was hammering against my ribs. I felt like I was going to pass out again. "Chin up," Grandpa said. "You're the victim here. Never look down." We walked in the front door. The house was loud. Laughter, smells of roast beef. We walked into the dining room. My dad was at the head of the table, holding a wine glass. "Ah," Dad said, spotting us. The room went quiet. "Look who decided to show up, the prodigal son and his enabler." My mom laughed nervously. "Grab a plate, there's plenty of salad left." "We're not hungry," Grandpa said. His voice boomed. "Don't start a scene, Arthur," my aunt hissed. "I'm not starting a scene," Grandpa said. "I'm finishing one." He reached into his jacket pocket. He pulled out a thick envelope, a manila envelope with a red legal notice stamp on it. He tossed it onto the table. It landed right in the mashed potatoes. "What is this?" Dad asked, staring at it. "That," I said, finding my voice, "is a lawsuit for the $50,000 you stole from me." The silence was absolute. My aunt dropped her fork. "Stole?" Dad laughed, but his face went pale. "Don't be ridiculous. We borrowed it. For family expenses." "You bought Bella a Jeep," I said, "and you paid for a party with my college money, Grandma's money." All eyes turned to Bella. She was sitting there, texting. She looked up. "Why is everyone looking at me? It's my car." "It's my money," I snapped. "You ungrateful little brat." My mom stood up, knocking her chair over. "We raised you. That money is ours. We are your parents." "The trust explicitly stated," Grandpa cut in, reciting the law, "that the funds were for educational purposes only for the named beneficiary. You committed fraud, and since you crossed state lines to transfer the bank funds, it's wire fraud. That's a felony, Karen." "Felony?" Mom squeaked. "And," Grandpa continued, enjoying every second, "we froze your assets this morning. You can't access your accounts, so I hope you have cash to pay for this roast beef." Dad stood up, his face red. "Get out of my house." "Gladly," Grandpa said, "but first—" He walked over to the window. Outside, in the driveway, was Bella's shiny new Jeep. "That," Grandpa pointed, "was bought with stolen funds, which means it is evidence." As if on cue, a tow truck backed into the driveway. I swear, I didn't know Grandpa had arranged this part. He is a tactical genius. "No!" Bella screamed. "My Jeep!" She ran outside. My parents ran after her. The whole family followed. The tow truck driver was already hooking it up. "You can't do this!" Dad yelled at the driver. "I'll sue you!" "Repo order, buddy," the driver said, not even looking up. "Court-mandated asset seizure pending litigation. Take it up with the judge." Bella was throwing a tantrum on the lawn, screaming, crying, stomping her feet. It was the first time in her life she didn't get her way. My extended family, aunts, uncles, were staring at my parents with horror. They knew about the trust. They knew Grandma wanted us to go to college. "Karen," my aunt said, "did you really take Liam's school money for a car?" "You don't understand," Mom wailed. "Bella needed reliable transportation." "She has a school bus," my uncle shouted. "Liam has a full-ride scholarship and you sabotaged him?" The tide had turned. For the first time, the perfect family mask slipped. They looked small. They looked greedy. They looked like criminals. Grandpa put his arm around me. "Let's go, Liam. I'm craving a steak, and I'm buying." We left them screaming in the driveway. That was 4 years ago. You're probably wondering how it ended. Did they go to jail? Did I get my money? Well, the legal system is slow, but it grinds fine. They didn't go to jail, sadly. First-time offenders, paid restitution, blah, blah, blah. They took a plea deal to avoid a felony record, but they pled guilty to misdemeanor fraud. But the financial costs destroyed them. They had to pay back every cent of the $50,000, plus interest, plus my legal fees. To do that, they had to sell the house. The perfect house where I was ignored for 18 years. They live in a 2-bedroom apartment now. As for Bella, without the money to bail her out, reality hit her hard. She barely graduated high school. She doesn't have a car because the Jeep was sold at auction to pay me back. And me? I graduated college last month. Grandpa was there, front row, VIP section. He cheered so loud he embarrassed me, and I loved every second of it. I haven't spoken to my parents or Bella since the day the Jeep was towed. Sometimes, my mom tries to email me. She sends guilt-tripping messages like, "We're family," and "We made a mistake, but you shouldn't punish us forever." I don't reply. I just forward them to my spam folder. Because here's the truth I learned that day in the hospital. Blood doesn't make you family. Showing up makes you family. When I fell, they stayed at Pizza Hut. When I fell, Grandpa ran through security to catch me. That's all I need to know. So, if you're out there feeling invisible in your own house, hold on. Find your grandpa. Find your tribe. And when you finally stand up, make sure you stand tall enough to walk away. That's my story. And honestly, the view from here is pretty great.